Good evening. I'd like to call the Lincoln Way 210 Board of Education meeting for August 20th, 2026 to order. Please stand if you're able for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Ms. Davis, can you call the roll?
Dana Berthold. Here. Catherine Johnson.
Here.
Joseph Kostic.
Here.
Richard Lacine. Caitlin Olanek.
Here.
Deidre Stokes.
Here.
Aaron Janik.
Here. We have one individual signed up for public comment, Dawn Kamadeka.
Hello. Thank you for letting me speak today. My name is Dawn Kamadeka. I have two daughters at Lincoln Way East. One is a senior and one is a sophomore. I'm sorry. My husband agrees with everything I'm about to say today, and he could not be present. He had to travel for work. Now I know why the tissues are under here. Sorry. Okay. I feel I am a very supportive parent involved in our community and with the kids at school. Also, knowledgeable in the sport of cheerleading, as I coached the youth program for Falcons for 9 seasons and recently 4 seasons at the Summit Hill Junior High. I've always felt I've been supportive of the East Cheer program as well, helping train athletes, potentially going into the program and volunteering for team support, homecoming, team dinners, prepping gifts, state, etc. I'm here to ask for adjustments made to the East Cheer program. In our District 210, we have 6 junior highs feeding into the 3 high schools. 2 of those junior high have competitive cheer programs, Summit Hill and Hickory Creek. They are both feeding into East. There is an influx of talent year to year, some years more considerable than others. In my opinion, this is a blessing for the program to have extra talent and interest of these young athletes wanting to be involved in a school sport and activity. The cheer program is split into 2 seasons, the first being football. The tryout is in April. The athletes cheer on the sideline at the football games and perform a halftime routine for the 4 home games, weather permitting, of course. The second season, basketball competition team tryouts are conducted in October. The timeline of events that has occurred recently, the freshman team, that would be the team from last year, at the end of January, this team was told they worked so hard, improved their skills, and were so talented that they deserved to go to a competition in Huntley and compete at the JV level. That's an all-freshman girl team competing at the JV level, which they did and did extremely well, earning 2nd place, rounding out an amazing season for them. We were all so proud. Then 75 days later, in April, football sideline tryouts, 11 of these athletes were told they were not capable of cheering on the sideline. The reasons given were skills required for competition. Thank you. Lack of tumbling, etc. So just to reiterate, the reasons they were told they were not capable of being on sideline cheer were for competition skills. This was sideline tryouts to cheer at school football games, not competition. Obviously, this was confusing to the cheerleaders, very difficult for them to understand. I'm a trained cheerleader. I'm worthy. I can't believe they gave up on me. How were we as parents to begin to explain this to our daughter when we couldn't process it ourselves? Because this did not make sense. We decided to seek for an explanation on our daughter's behalf to help her. We feel we followed proper protocol, contacted the athletic director as we were instructed at parent meetings. We asked, did anything occur during the season that we were not aware of? Is there something personal going on? Because we knew it wasn't based on skills. The answers were both no to both. No, nothing had occurred during the season that we weren't aware of, and there was nothing personal. Initially, the response, lack of facilities, uniforms, and management. My husband and I immediately sprang into action. We offered to help the situation, support, fundraise, do anything that our athletic director we could possibly do. We were told no. The situation was so upsetting to so many that the AD and the cheer director offered that they called a resolution was to offer 9 of the 11 cheerleaders to return to the freshman team. This was not received well, as they should be afforded the opportunity to be on the JV sideline with their peers, not fired from the same job twice. A few correspondence later, at that time I was told by the principal, or Dr. Griggs, to direct my questions to the coaches. When I did, the coach told me that she was told by our cheer director not to speak to me. So I circled back to the AD and principal, asking, is it true that the resolution was that poor that my daughter could be the only person considering it? The answer was yes. That was too much for her, and very difficult, a position for her to be in. She couldn't be the only one. After so many concerns brought forward by so many other parents, the principal needed to conduct an administrative review. While I understand why this was necessary, as the concerns by all the other parents were serious, it was my opinion that these concerns went to the forefront, and my initiative fighting for these girls to be on the sideline with their peers on JV went by the wayside. I then contacted our superintendent, Dr. Tingley. I believe he tried to help me. He did listen. He inquired, but unfortunately, no change by the East staff. In efforts to continue to help our daughter, for her to know she was not garbage tossed aside, she had skills, and she was worthy of cheering on the sideline, I contacted 3 other high school cheer coaches, sent videos of her skills. All 3 coaches stated positivity and said they would have her on their teams. One of those coaches was Lincoln Way Central coach. So if Central and West always have room for sideline cheer, why can't East? In my opinion, East should feel honored that there is so much interest and proud that so many kids want to be involved. Our staff should be flexible and find a way to continue for continuous involvement and support these athletes. Every school year is different based on the student body. We can make adjustments accordingly in so many other ways successfully. Why can't we for the sideline cheer program? A true school activity representing school spirit. Things we want kids to do now. As a community, I feel we can do better. My daughter is a good kid, above average student, has not been a discipline problem. She is not a safety risk to herself or others on the sideline. I inquired again recently per Mr. Tingley's recommendation. East staff still says no. They are not willing to offer my daughter a position on JV because other girls scored higher than her. Again, they all should have been offered positions on sideline to start with, in my opinion. Not to mention, while all 11 athletes, should be offered positions on the JV with their peers, she may still be, my daughter, she may still be the only athlete who would still wants to participate. The first JV game is on Saturday. She could easily get caught up. Unfortunately, the short window, she should not be in halftime for safety reasons. But there are a couple of weeks until the next home game. She could definitely be brought up to speed for that halftime performance. In conclusion, we have definitely established that she does have skills. She is more than capable of being on the sideline. In my opinion, none of these kids should have been put through this. I'm here requesting a change, an adjustment, and for our schools to be flexible and offer equal opportunities amongst the three schools. Again, if Central and West always have room on the sideline, and I have that in an email if you need a copy of it, East should too. And if they have an abundance of talent, we should be able to figure it out. Thank you for listening. I hope you consider what I had to say this evening and we can make a change.
All right, thank you. All right, we're going to be moving on to our curriculum update.
Good evening. It's been a while, so I've got a few updates for you on things from last spring and this summer. First is our advanced placement, our AP report, some statistics for you. We are extremely, extremely proud of these results. If you take a look at our AP course enrollment over the last 5 years, we have had more than 25% increase in our AP course enrollment, and you can really see that started really 2 years ago. We really started this push, and the students are enrolling even more in the courses. With that, not just enrolling in the courses, but students actually taking the exams, putting themselves out there to see if they can get some college credit. We've had a 37% increase in the number of AP exams over the last 5 years. And again, you can kind of see that one's really more of a steady slope up as we do that. But most impressively is the number of exams that we have had that have scored a 3 or higher. The 3 on the AP exam ensures students that they can get college credit for that particular course. You can see in the last 5 years a 77% increase in the number of exams that scored a 3 or higher. So our students are taking our classes, our teachers are preparing them, encouraging them to take the exams, and they're having success on those exams, earning themselves college credit. The next thing I'd like to update you on are the spring 2026 state assessment results. That was the pre-ACT 9, the pre-ACT, and the ACT. I have a look for you at some of our scores. I only put the numbers up there for you to see for our district average, but really the difference between all the schools, you can see where the bars are, but when you look at the actual margin of error that ACT publishes for us, it really kind of just depends on the day of when the students take the test. They could score 2 points higher or 2 points lower. And so when you're looking at that, it's less than a 2-point difference between all of our schools. Our juniors obviously did very well with the 22.2. Our sophomores last year had the 19.4, and our freshmen had the 18.9. To give you a preview, our incoming freshmen this year, last year in the fall when they took the pre-ACT 8-9, they scored an 18.2. So you can kind of see where we are at with students coming in. To give you a scope, this is straight from ACT, they kind of give you an example of what is a good ACT score. With our district average of a 22.2, we are in the high range for the mid-tier colleges of students being admitted. Obviously, this is our district average, so we definitely have many, many students who are already scoring above that 22.2, opening them up to selective and top-tier colleges. When we look at composite growth from the fall, we also at Lincoln Way give the students these assessments in the fall so we can track their yearly progress. You can see the amount of growth. For last year's freshmen, they overall, as a district, increased their composite growth by 0.8 points. The pre-ACT 8-9 normed growth is 0.4, so they did double the growth that was expected of them. Our sophomores didn't do as well. We have noticed this, and we have been making some changes as we go through curriculum review. We updated that process about 4 years ago, and the departments, as they are looking at their curriculum and what changes need to be made, we're really honing in on that sophomore year. We think it's a change in the test, just a little bit different in the ability, that the number of inference questions goes up and the number of objective recall questions goes down. And so that's what we need to focus on in the curriculum. Again, with our juniors, we exceeded the normed growth that you normally see in one school year for the ACT. In ELA, you can see percentages met by the state benchmarks, which are extremely similar to ACT. And again, I gave you a sneak peek at what we are looking at for our current freshmen who just arrived yesterday. In the world of math, you can see this. This year and the next year, we are hoping we made a huge change in our philosophy of admitting freshman students, not just to algebra or honors algebra, but now incoming freshmen can start in geometry. We are confident that that's going to help push the students to progress in their skills and not simply repeat things that they do in 8th grade. So we're hoping to increase some of that as well. The incoming freshman looks really good. Again, there's differences in each of these exams on the cognitive level that they're expected to perform. In science, looking pretty good. A lot of room to improve for our incoming freshmen on science, but we are definitely up to that task. Also wanted to give you a brief report on summer school because we had talked about that and the different methods or programs that we possibly would have had. This is a 5-year look at our enrollment history for summer school. In the dark gray is total enrollment, and then the in-person enrollment. You can see over the last 5 years, total enrollment for summer school has gone down 51%, and in-person enrollment has gone down 63%.
Talk a little bit about the reason for that, Renee. Yeah.
A lot of different reasons. But if you remember when the Accelerated Placement Act came into effect, pretty much 4 years ago now, and we started, that's the adjustment in not all incoming freshmen have to take our reading class. And so that opens up a spot in their schedules. Some of it as well is, I think, just the community getting used to that and saying, yeah, you don't have to do that. The last 2 years, Dr. Tingley has been very proactive in talking to students and families about different ways to organize your 4-year plan so that you don't have to take summer school, you don't have to take 0 hour. So we've seen a steady decrease. This year as well, we do think, this year we had moved summer school to Lincoln Way West due to all of the work that we had in the buildings. And so we do think that a lot of our students from the east side of the district didn't make the drive all the way over to Lincoln Way.
And that's been the trend in the past. Previous charts, when we would just have it at West, we would have lower enrollment as well. Next summer, the plan would be to be here at Central. We'll have quite a bit of construction going on at East. And then depending upon how soon they start the overpass that Dr. Duback will discuss later tonight, there could be a lot going on at West as well. Go ahead, Renee.
I did want to share with you 2 pilot programs we did this summer. I'm very excited and extremely positive results from both. We did the pilot programs in these 2 particular areas because the number of students who had enrolled for an in-person course was too low for us to actually run that class for it to be cost effective. So the first one we did was something called Summer Math Lab. Essentially, the students came for 1 semester. For algebra, we did first semester, and geometry and algebra 2, we did second semester. They came the normal summer school hours with one of our teachers in the class. The students used the subject.com platform. There were a lot of things that we chose to put into place for this. We did a mastery-based progression along with diagnostic-informed pacing. The students could go in and take a quiz for each topic, and if they scored proficiently on that topic, they didn't have to do all the work to recapture that. This, obviously the students enjoyed that. The very last bullet up there talks about accelerated completion. The students loved this. It gave them a reason and a motivation to keep going. As soon as they finished, they did not have to attend anymore. And so our instructor, Mr. Nalbach, was fabulous with these students. He would send them an email when the students finished. Pretty much every parent had replied back, "Thank you. My son or daughter feels confident in math again. My son or daughter really enjoyed learning with you. My son or daughter really enjoyed knowing that they didn't just not know any of the subject." Extremely positive results. If you take a look at this, you can see, I did some statistics. I won't read all of those for you because I know you have access to this in your documents, but we see the average credit recovery grades for each of those, and this was through the online platform. Mr. Knobloch had gone through and took both semesters of the course, picked out the essential topics, and combined them into one semester. So whether the students needed to recover the credit for first semester, second semester, or both, they all took the same content. We're very excited to track these kids throughout the school year coming up. Our second pilot that we did was a hybrid. So Mr. Tarala did our civics and our econ courses, and essentially what he did, we met with the students on day one, and for civics, first semester, he then met with them online once a week, but the students, again, did the coursework through subject.com. In second semester, he said, "Can I try some different things?" I said, "Absolutely." So he said that they needed to come in once a week so that he could meet with them. And he was a little nervous because econ has more math. In both of these scenarios, we made the students come into the school physically to take our final exams that we give here during the school year. Interesting, you can see on here, I gave you a chart so you could see what their online score was. I know there had been some talk before about, how many hours are these students working on the program? Are they using AI to cheat? But here you can see what their online score was and then also what their Lincoln Way exam score was. And you can see how similar they actually are. When I did some statistical analyses, which I'd love to talk about, if you want to go through all of those, the correlation was a positive correlation between the online score and the final exam of 0.38. It meant that students who do well online usually do well on the exam. Nothing necessarily, obviously, a very small sample size, but Mr. Tarala and Mr. Knobloch both were great to get into the platform to figure out all the benefits of it, and we had two really successful programs with these courses that otherwise we wouldn't have run. Any questions? Yes,
I do.
Dana.
Hello. Just looking at the data, I think is super helpful by school. I did notice the amount of students that are not meeting on the math benchmark for ISB. That's some of them, you're talking about less than half in a school. What's currently being done to address the math issues in that group of students? What are departments working on to try and improve that score? Because they're the closest to taking that final ACT to go on to college, right? They're the group that is
Correct.
closest to that. So that's a huge gap to fill, so I'm just curious what's being worked on.
What's very interesting is if you look over the years, you can see that our sophomores always seem to be that stagnant, really little to no growth. And then to junior year, our junior courses, really, we have seen that extraordinary amount of growth. What you're looking at on the data that I gave you is different groups of students,
Correct.
right? And I do have data that I can share with you to show you how how the class of 2027 did as freshman, sophomore, junior, senior.
Yeah.
I can get that to you as well.
Well, with that explanation, though, then you would expect these scores to be higher,
Oh,
right?
definitely,
But-
definitely.
They're not, so that's where I was questioning what had happened. You're saying between sophomore and junior, these are the juniors, right? This class of 2028?
Yes,
Okay, so 53% of the juniors in the class of 2028 are meeting on ISB standards for math.
Correct.
So with that, that's where I'm saying, like, they're
Oh, I see.
already at that lower level. So now this is their junior year where they're having to catch up a
Yes.
significant amount. So you're telling me that in this junior year, they get all of that content to catch up? Is there something that should be done with the freshman and sophomore courses to be able to prepare them better so that they don't have that kind of a gap to fill in their
Absolutely.
junior year?
Absolutely, agree
that's
with
a
you
huge
1,000%. And that was one of the key reasons we made that change at our Class of 2030 open house, where we can say freshmen, when you're coming in, you can start in geometry. And we do believe then, the ACT itself is mostly algebra skills. Our sophomore year has traditionally been geometry, so it's almost like they come into high school, they're getting almost a repeat, if you will, or a strong refresher and honing of those algebra skills. But to many of our students, it doesn't develop a work ethic in math, right? Because they're like, oh, I'm good at this. And then they go to sophomore year and it's mainly geometry. This is why we made this huge shift, is to say, no, they're ready. We're going to start them earlier. Looking at our current students who are in geometry, we have rolled a lot of those skills into there. So this year, hopefully, we will see a difference in there as well.
Is there a concern that by having them move to that level so early on in their high school career, that them remembering a lot of those skills going into junior year will be a different type of problem that's being created? Like
We
that
don't-
they're not cycling through all of those skills every year?
We're optimistic about this because the geometry, as I just said, we've rolled all of these algebra skills back into it, so they're getting that review, whether it's a freshman or a sophomore who's sitting in geometry.
But more of the freshmen will be taking geometry now.
Correct.
Which gives them Algebra 2 as sophomores, and then
Yes.
an advanced algebra or trig track then as juniors and seniors, which should just even be better as they're preparing for that ACT. I know my own children, the graphs have been similar. When they're taking their geometry as a sophomore, they don't perform quite as well. We get into that Algebra 2 honors track, and then as juniors, we do seem to catch up. I'm interested to see with our more kids taking geometry as freshmen, that we can even enhance those algebra skills a little deeper and maybe even get better scores as juniors. Sophomores, I think this 2030 class will perform better as sophomores. That's kind of the pregame. We're more concerned about that junior test, but I do think our chairs believe that this could help having more algebra then as sophomores, juniors, as they prepare for that test.
And then the other question I had was about the subgroup data. I know that's something that I had been interested in previously, just looking at the groups of students with IEPs. I know a district average is great, a building average is great for certain purposes, but I think looking at growth for those subgroups really helps you identify where there are holes in those specific tracks. And I know we've focused on EL learners previously, and that's something that you're working towards. But also those students with IEPs and 504s, making sure that they're not getting lost in the shuffle of a big number that looks really nice.
Yes.
And not forgetting that they're having to work twice as hard possibly, or do twice as much to be able to get to that even baseline. So
Yes.
being able to see some of that, I would love to see some of that data and see how
Yes.
their growth is.
I've got
moving
a whole
forward.
packet for you.
Love
I
it.
can send it
Thank
your
you.
way.
Perfect, thank you.
And I possibly missed this. With the class of 2030, the
Yes.
data, that's the incoming freshmen, right?
Correct,
So
correct.
where did you compile that from the testing that they did in 8th grade? From the
Yeah,
PSAT?
they take a pre-ACT. We pay for that. The
Yes.
feeder schools are so good to administer it for us. And that's what the data we use to place them in their courses.
Okay, got
And
it.
so that was where we're at, just to kind of give you a picture.
Okay, got it. Okay, thank you.
And you talked about more inference questions in sophomore year.
Mm-hmm.
So that's maybe why we see some. I think that's maybe part of what Dana's questions were about. No, not at all, okay. Have we talked to the feeders about maybe incorporating some more inference type questioning at the 8th grade level, 7th, 8th grade level, to get them ready?
Yes,
Yeah, okay.
yeah. Yeah.
Just seeing if we're, you know,
Yeah, and
Communicating that
the
on
hard
down.
part with that, we meet once a month with all of the feeder groups, and that is, we try not to, you know, we tell them what we would like,
Right.
but it's hard. And so we do see, if I, which I also have the data for, break this down for you by incoming feeder school, there's a large difference between our feeder schools. Some of them have different philosophies about standardized testing. And so that's something that we look at and say, okay, how can we start fresh when the students come to us, and make sure that those skills are all in there.
Quick question with the feeder schools, was that, once you looked at that data with the feeder schools and saw the differences, do we then, I guess, work along with the feeder schools to try to fill that gap, or whatever that gap is, or what is the difference from whatever school when we see that difference? Is there anything that we're doing to partner with them at all?
The difficult discussions that we have had is in the elementary schools, they have different state standards and they have a different assessment. So the IAR that they use, that's really a test where students generate things, as opposed to the ACT where they're picking the correct answer. And that's really hard because that's their whole focus. And when you look at scores from them on their exam, they all do very well.
Just a quick question on, sounds like the LWA is happy with the pilot programs. Coach Terrell they're all happy, and is there any ideas for expansion that they've been thinking about?
We have several volunteers.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, good.
so I think that will be our discussion here the first quarter as we review that. And we're gonna look at the specific classes that have run
Yeah.
and try and pick a couple more that we think would fit this model.
Mm-hmm.
But we do think, and Jeff thought it was more valuable coming in once a week. I think we can agree there. And Troy felt he had to be there to provide the support with
Recovery,
the
yeah.
students
Recovery.
that are taking the class again.
Yeah.
But certainly something we're going to investigate, and we think that this model was successful. We obviously handpicked the teachers that would be willing to do this, but we think all of our teachers that volunteer to teach summer school would be able to manage such a platform. So it's something we will look at.
Sweet.
Yeah.
That's good. Thank you.
Thank you.
all right, moving on. The consent agenda, we have items D1 through D6. Can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Any questions, comments? Hearing none, can you please open the vote? We'll see if we can get it to work. It's our first time using the new platform. Oh, it popped up, all right.
Okay, it did, yes.
Oh, it tells us right then and there. Oh, wow. Yeah, really fancy.
This vote was unanimous. Motion passes.
All right, next up, under action items, we have the presentation of invoices for June 19th, 2026 through August 20th, 2026.
Motion to approve invoices in the amount of 23,000,000, can I blow that up, 683,000 and change? If I'm reading that correctly? Okay. Can we round the pennies this time, because I can't read?
I think we can round pennies now. I think that's
hold on.
legal.
No, I'll do this right. Here, now I just blew it up. Motion to approve invoice amount is $23,683,967 at 130% on my screen.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? Any questions?
That bear one was the HVAC stuff, or, yeah.
Bear is for the large HVAC.
Any further questions on the invoices? Hearing none, can you please open the vote?
Vote is open.
Bang up job, Joe.
My pleasure. Glad I could help.
This vote is unanimous. Motion passes.
Yeah, it's,
Motion to bring me
I'm going
cheaters
off the
next time.
paper because it's just a lot easier to, yeah. All right, speaking of the paper, next up is the treasurer's report for June 2026.
In June, revenues totaled $56.8 million. Expenses for the month were $27.3 million. District's total cash balance on June 30 was $82.5 million. As we closed unaudited, of course, fiscal year 2026, as of June 30th, 99.4% of budgeted operating revenues were received, and 98.5% of budgeted operational spending had occurred. We controlled the operational spending okay. We had some invoices that we had thought might hit in June, not come from contractors on time, so we'll make those payments and roll that into FY27. And then revenues concluded under 100% only because fewer tax revenue dollars were received in June. We've had this conversation probably every June and July. You know it's just a timing piece, so we'll make those adjustments in fiscal year 27 in the budget brought for board consideration in September. In June, liquid rates averaged approximately 3.5%, and in June and July, in fact, we just got another property tax distribution today. I'm working with PMA and making those investments, laddering in several different CDs and treasury bills. June's cash receipts and disbursements were in line with what we predicted. The state of Illinois did process their final categorical payment prior to June 30th, so that was positive news. And then final salaries and benefits ended at 99.8% of budgeted amounts. That was something we were watching closely as medical insurance continues on its trend. So we felt very good about that. Happy to take any questions you may have.
Look at that precision, 99.8. You can't get better than that. Kudos to you.
You could get 99.9 or 100, I guess.
That's credit to Kelly and to our whole business office and HR staff. They did a fantastic job.
There was something in one of the, and it's a little hard to navigate the new system, so bear with me.
Sure.
We were talking about what is it, CPR? Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
CPPRT?
CPPRT, yeah. And you said we're watching that because we might get more this year, but we're not sure if we're gonna get it, so we're gonna monitor it. When
Yep.
would we know when that's gonna all?
So,
Shake out.
and I can speak a little bit more in the FY27 budget
Okay,
update
maybe that's
here
where
tonight.
I saw it, okay.
Is that, I can answer it now or discuss it there, but
Well-
CPPRT is, we were supposed to see a 10% reduction. That was something that we've seen a huge swell up, six-figure swell up, in some districts millions up during and right after COVID, and then a return to normal. So we were seeing 25 and 30% reductions every year. Early state of Illinois budget conversations had school districts like Lincoln Way probably targeting about a 10% reduction. However, and you say, when will we find out? Some of this information, evidence-based funding, CPPRT, is not released until the very end of July or the first week of August. And as I'll talk more about later, that's actually one where we're now seeing $130,000 increase. The conservative side of me says, well, let's just monitor that because that was unexpected. I want to make sure that comes through, that there's not a proration like there has been with our state categoricals. But that is good news, and that's good news for the 27 budget.
That's probably where I saw it, and that's probably why I couldn't find it.
No
in this
problem.
part
Yep,
of
no
the
problem.
report. All right. Any other questions? Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion to approve the treasurer's report.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Can you please open the vote?
Vote is open. Vote is unanimous, motion passes.
All right, next up is the student activities report for June 2026.
For the student activities report, showing a fund balance of $2,521,457 with revenues of $510,366 and expenditures of $322,441. Excuse me, there were a handful of negative balances. Those were due to timing, some collection of football or some collection of summer camp, and then like football would be fundraising here to start the year. We're all in good shape with all of them at the timing of the printing of this memo.
With that, I would entertain a motion to approve the student activities report for June 2026 as presented.
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions? All right, hearing none, can you please open the vote?
Vote is open. The vote is unanimous, motion passes.
All right, next up is the District 843 fiscal year 2027 budget.
The initial District 843 budget last year, just as an overview, projected expenses were about $3.9 million for Lincoln Way 210. This was later revised down to $3.7 million. This new FY27 budget was shared with member districts in July, both to the governing board and the advisory board. Total expenditures projected are almost 4.1 million, so that's just under an 8% increase. Now, that's something that we need to incorporate into our own fiscal year 27 budget, but a couple of notes on that. The most notable changes, Pioneer Grove's tuition rate, an increase of $122,000. On a percentage basis, that's pretty significant, so that's something that we're in conversations with just to understand that on a per-student basis. Itinerant services, we have an increased cost, but we also have increased service minutes based on students' needs this year. Parapro salaries, staffing needs went down. Transportation, I think we've talked about before, has gone up because the bus leases for the cooperative are very high. And then operations and maintenance, there's an increase in this year because they're preparing for some June work for some capital improvements. All of those do make sense. This increase we will account for, but what I will say is District 843 had been coming in at or slightly over their initial budget by the time the year ended for a couple of years there. This last year they came under budget and they were able to control those costs. And so I feel optimistic that this 4.1 is probably pretty conservative on their end in terms of that 8% increase. But nonetheless, that's something that we do need to watch. And that special ed transport piece is one of those where we do think there can be maybe some efficiency, but also take a look at program needs. So we'll investigate ways that those costs can be controlled. But as I said, bake this into the FY27 budget for September and into the 5cast.
Any questions on the 843 budget? All right, hearing none, I'd entertain a motion to approve the budget as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Can you please open the vote?
Vote is open. The vote is unanimous. Motion passes.
All right, next up is the payment authorization to Bear Construction for summer life safety improvements.
So the next two agenda items, actually, just a couple of general comments about them and the reason they're separate from the rest of the board bills. What these are for board consideration is to authorize payment. DLA has given us a cover letter to say, yes, this work has been done. However, maybe some of the paperwork, we still need to work through waivers and everything else. At the same time, some of the subcontractors waiting until the September board meeting is quite a long time to release that money. And so we're pleased with the progress. Henry Brothers, couple of punch list items and things like that, but their cover letter, as you see from DLA, is all well and good. And then what DLA has asked is if we can authorize payment and then hold the check until we work out those details and paperwork, and then we will be authorized to release it over the coming weeks. The total for Bear Construction in this pay app is $3,329,120.86. And as long as I'm talking about both, Henry Brothers in the next item is $402,612.40. Happy to take any questions you may have.
Well,
Dr.
just to
Tingley?
add something, we did talk to Rich Lucene about this. As we all know, this is Rich's area of expertise. So Mike did talk to Rich, and this is a common practice in some of the larger districts that he works with. So we did run this past him, and he said, yeah, as long as your architects and everyone's signing off on it, this is a very reasonable request, so the union guys are not waiting to be paid for an additional 5 weeks.
And in addition to Rich, same with DLA. Brian Scully from DLA said they do this for the vast majority of their clients, frankly.
We have not, but at the same time, this is one of the larger projects we've done in quite a while.
Yep.
So just wanted to add that.
So you'll have the necessary paperwork next week or two so you can release this?
Absolutely.
Correct.
We won't release it until the architects and everybody signed off on everything, but it will just kind of be a continuing, Joe, over the next 3 or 4 weeks as they complete. So then the electricians will get paid, and then the pipe fitting guys will get paid, so that sort of thing. Yeah.
All right. If If there are no other questions, I would entertain a motion to authorize the payment to Bear Construction. We have a motion. Do we have a second? Second. We have a motion and a second. Any further comments or questions? Hearing none, can you please open the vote?
Vote is open. The vote is unanimous. Motion passes.
And we've already discussed Henry Brothers. If there aren't any more questions, I'd entertain a motion to approve payment of $402,612.40 to Henry Brothers as presented.
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. Can you please open the vote?
Vote is open. Vote is unanimous. Motion passes.
All right, next up is informational items. Report of the Lincoln Way Special Education District 843 Governing Board meeting held on May 26th and June 30th.
So a lot of the conversation has been around the budget for the next school year. We had our financial planner, Mr. Engler, came in to present the budget and concerns or just explanations aligning with the budget for the upcoming school year. We had planned for the capital project to have the toilet room repaired, but that's going to be held off until all of the funding and the tuition issues, because we're afraid that there's something else that might need to be repaired and it could create a bigger cost. So that's not going to be worked on. The grant that was acquired to cover most of the costs for that project will actually still be available to use next year, so that project has shifted. We had good discussion about some playground repairs that needed to be made and how to work in those repairs, and also find maybe alternatives for students to use different types of equipment that might not get damaged by being outside in the elements, and allow more students to have access to different things. So the parent organization that works with the co-op is going to be also doing some fundraising to help with the costs for some of those projects as well. So that'll be an ongoing collaboration between the parents and the 843 staff. Staffing looks good. Most of the staff are hired. There's still obviously some random resignations that come through. And ESY was successful, and the co-op appreciates all of the districts that had their special ed directors, and thank you to ours, for following up with parents and making sure we don't have a lot of people saying that they're coming to extended school year, staffing for those students, and then having them not attend. So it's a huge, huge help in terms of cost savings and then actually planning for students. So 2 great meetings, and that's all.
Thank you. FOIA requests,
In your backup material for your review.
buildings and ground report.
Same with buildings and grounds, and the first reading, superintendent notes and policies are included. Nothing really of significance, just some cleanup from press. We'll have those for the next board meeting ready for approval.
And then the fiscal year 2027 budget update.
Mike, go ahead and hit the highlights for us.
Yep, real quick, in June, we presented the tentative. If you remember, that's early. It's on public display for adoption in September. It was balanced, 33% fund balance. We did have a smaller capital projects transfer, but that was so preliminary. So now with the year closed, several releases. Mr. Janik, you mentioned number 2 here, CPPRT, that I talked about. Evidence-based funding, by the way, we now sit squarely as a Tier 2 district, in case anyone ever were to talk about state funding with you. Tier 2, we're at 76% adequacy, so we will not receive as much money as a Tier 1 district, as much of an increase, I should say. Property tax receipts, I mentioned before. Other local revenue, some similar June to July timing differences that will be reflected that actually helps the 27 budget. And then insurance claims, we're making some modifications, like with all the summer storms. We'll have expenditures that have to hit the books, but then obviously revenue offsets from reimbursement. So things like that have to be accounted for and updated. Budget updates ongoing. They will continue for the next couple of weeks, and a final version brought to a budget hearing in September. Happy to take any other questions about this that you guys might have.
Any questions? All right, thank you.
Mhm.
Then we have the Gauger Road Improvements Update.
I have handed this squarely off to Mike, as this is going to be a 5-year project. So we did receive the estimate of what they're willing to pay us, but Mike can provide an overview, and then this is going to be a challenge for a couple years at West as they construct this overpass. Go ahead, Mike.
Sure. So Will County Division of Transportation, they did notify us. We received a letter. I did include that in your packet materials from the Will County DOT. What it is they're looking to acquire some of the land right along Gauger Road on the west side of West for widening the road. Not only is it going to be an overpass, it's going to be 2 lanes each direction. And some of what they need, you'll see in your materials, they had an independent appraisal done by Swanson and Brown. That was done in December of 2025. That is what they used to make us an offer to say, well, we need a temporary construction easement as well, but the permanent acquisition of land for this expansion is 0.413 acres for that infrastructure for $23,000. $23,050 to be precise. So that's something where we'll need to have a little bit further conversation to understand how that will affect the access in and out there by the auditorium. We've heard different things. There's nothing included in these materials that we receive now about a frontage road or any details like that. We've heard various whispers and different things about what that could look like, but we need to sit down with them and not asking for any action tonight. This is informational only, just to let you know that we received it. The timeline here is, as Dr. Tingley mentioned, this could be 2 years from now, 3 years from now. It could be over the next 5. And that's some of what we need to get a handle on. But we certainly want to sit down with them and understand scope, understand how that will affect our student vehicular traffic, and then what that looks like in terms of them acquiring the land.
And this will not be completed in one summer. This is
Oh,
going to
absolutely
be
not.
a several-month project. I think when it's completed, it's going to be an asset. It's going to be good for us.
Mhm.
It's just, there's going to be some growing pains as we go through this.
Yeah.
But we will continue to keep the board updated. This is all we have got, this is all we've received officially
Right.
up until this point. We've had discussions with the Will County Department of Transportation. We know it's going to happen, but it's just the timing of everything will keep the board and the community appraised, because there will be some logistical challenges at West as this starts.
So it's an overpass for the train?
It will, the
Go over the
roads
train
will
tracks.
go
So
over the
over the train
train.
tracks.
Correct. The roads will go over the train. So we don't know how far that pitch is going to go past our property.
Right.
Like, it
Right.
could go past the entrance to the auditorium right now, which would then, we would need a frontage access if we wanted to still
Correct.
access that lot, so to speak.
Correct.
So we'll work with them as we go through this process. We know they're great people to work with. I'm not worried about them just throwing it down and walking away. They're gonna work with us for the access points that we're going to need, stoplights, those sort of things. Like right now, we don't know exactly how it will look, but we'll get there.
And then isn't there the gas pipeline project over there too?
Well, that's the Village of New Lenox. That'll take
That's something-
place. That's something completely different.
Something
yes.
different. So
But
just-
that will be completed in a summer.
Okay.
That
Or-
will be
or
completed in the
school year
summer.
type deal.
But it's a fair question, because they're actually going to go under Gauger Road and then up
Right.
under the train tracks and along the south end. So it is in the vicinity.
Yeah.
Yes.
How the two projects overlap and relate to one another is yet
Different
to be seen.
government agencies always talk together and collaborate and get things done easy.
To Dr. Tingley's point, though, one of the positives here and what will be good about this Will County DOT project is that morning train with West, and students come to school. So Gauger is so busy.
No
and
more
it's-
excuses. I got caught by the train.
Yeah, right. No more excuses. You can't get caught by the train. So it will be really
Year
good
six
when
of your
it's
high
all
school
done.
career.
It will be really good when it's all done.
Okay. Anything on the legislative
No,
report?
nothing to report this evening.
Superintendent's district
I
report.
I did include the independent inspector general report that the board receives every year. There were no findings this last year of fraud or anything of that sort. The independent inspector general is under the Board of Education tab, and then it's also at the very bottom of our website on the front page. Our staff's aware it's out there. That's something I think we put into place, what, Joe, it's probably been about 8, 9 years ago. And so once again, we're continuing to work with Sikich. They did have 2 reports that were both unrelated to fraud, abuse. They contacted the board president, let them know what the complaint was, and then the administration worked through that. But as if it were fraud, abuse, neglect, it would go to the board president, vice president, and then they would be able to conduct whatever investigations were necessary. But once again, no findings for this past year. I just wanted to share that.
All right, any other district business?
Nothing this evening, other than off to a good start.
Welcome back, everyone.
Kids started Wednesday. It did rules orientations Thursday and Friday, so every student will have heard the rules. Several of our district administrators were able to get in the building and watch those presentations today. Pep rallies yesterday, outstanding. Our students are fantastic, and a lot of energy in the building. I give the principals, their teams, teachers, students, bus drivers, everyone on down. It's really been a good 2 days, so hopefully we can follow that up on Friday. But transportation, I told Mr. Janik, we have 10 bus drivers right now in the queue. We're hoping to maybe come up with 6 or 7. We are fully staffed and doing okay there. Andy's done an excellent job, and so really off to a good start this year.
Okay, excellent. And I'm supposed to assign 2 members of the board to review closed session minutes, so Catherine, you put your head down last. And I'll go ahead and do it as well. I don't know. I'll sign myself, I guess. And with that, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
No closed session.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Do we need to open a vote, or all signify by saying aye? Aye. All right, we are adjourned. Next meeting is September 17th.